네, 이곡에선 김대중평화회의 이제 라운드 테이블을 시작하도록 하겠습니다.
Now we are going to start a round table. The round table is about the role and responsibility for the global peace. So we may wonder what peace look like in the mind of young people from many countries. We have a moderator, Jong-dae, a CEO of Rēgeneration, and we have a lot of panelists. I would like to introduce one by one to you. Nirinthorn, Mesupnikom, researcher of Thammasat University, and Lydia Kembabazi, activist for Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa, and Marta Bochanikova, the Ph.D. candidate of Tomsk National University, and Michele Borcherding, LL.B. graduate student of Free University of Berlin, and Eun-young, the Jong-dae Ph.D. candidate of Seoul National University, and Hima Roopa, the guest lecturer from Delhi, who will be joined through the online. Thank you for welcoming us, and it is a great honor for us to make a presence in this prestigious forum.
I hope you guys stay with us till the end. My name is Jong-dae Kim, and I am the co-founder of Rēgeneration movement. We are a US-based nonprofit serving refugee and immigrant youth from all over the world. While we provide college prep education, global citizenship is actually at the core of our identity. And I think that is why it's very meaningful to end the conference on that note. The theme of this roundtable, as said, it's the youth, future, and peace, what has to be done. We truly have a global and young panel here with us, each representing the youth of Thailand, Uganda, Russia, Germany, South Korea, and India. So before we dive into the presentation, I wanted to invite all of you to pause for a minute and think about this for a little bit, because I'm sure you all had a lot to take in through the 2 days, but I think it's probably a good way to end on a note about thinking about what is peace. So I want to invite you to try to finish the sentence. Peace is blank. Peace is blank. So how would you define that sentence in your own way? 여러분들 혹시
So now this is the last session about peace. So I would like to ask you if you could finish this sentence about peace is something. Peace is this. Whether you could define peace before we go into the presentations. So maybe you can find your meaningful way to finish that sentence.
Our conversations has ranged from global responsibility, climate, pandemic, technology, security, diplomacy, economy, energy, and such. And all of these topics branches from the overarching theme of peace. So I want to encourage you to come up with a sentence in your own version in a personally meaningful way to you to end this conference. And that is actually what 6 of the panelists did actually, because I know that it would be a challenge to absorb 6 different presentations in this short period of time. But to help you process better, each panelist will give their version of the definition of peace before their speech, so that you can have them as an anchor as you listen to them. So are we ready to dive in? Yes? Yes, okay. So our first presenter is Ms. Nirinthorn Mesupnikom. Ms. Nirinthorn Mesupnikom is a Thai researcher at Thammasat University's Institute of East Asian Studies. She is an expert in various fields, from smart city development and economics to international cooperation, political science, and diplomacy. So she covers them all. Notably, she's been a policy advisor to various Thai government agencies, including the Office of the National Digital Economy and Society Commission and the Department of Public Works and Town and Country Planning. So here's her sentence about, what is peace. For her, peace is interconnection and integration. So interconnection and integration. And it is about drawing inspiration from the teachings of King Bhumipol, Buddhism, and Kim Dae-jung. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ms. Nirinthorn Mesupnikom.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and fellow champions of global peace, I stand before you today profoundly honored to share my insights on the topic, Harnessing Global Wisdom, Thailand's Journey Towards Youth-Driven Peace. As we know well that our world has shifted from agricultural to industrial society, now we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. We find ourselves amidst transformative changes akin to previous industrial revolutions. These shifts not only bring advancements, but also pose global challenges. Additionally, we stand on the brink of monumental shifts driven by megatrends. In this rapidly evolving world, the mantle of fostering peace, responsible resource management, and sustainability rests upon the shoulders of each individual. It is here our youth, particularly from Generation Y and Generation Z, are energetic and possess unique qualities like adaptability, innovation, and empathy. They are formidable agents of positive change, the architects of the transformation in our quest for peace. And as we delve deeper into our quest for peace, let us remember that peace is more than the mere absence of violence. It is a state characterized by harmonious coexistence between across society, the economy, politics, and ecological system. Peace embodies serenity, safety, well-being, equity, and ecological balance. Thailand, like any nation, has experienced both peace and conflict throughout its history, influenced by both domestic and external factors. But Thailand's youth actively promote peace and address both domestic and global issues, advocating for tolerance, social justice, environmental conservation, and political reforms. However, these young individuals who are aspiring to create a better world also face their own pressing challenges. Life's difficulties are equally profound for them. How has Thailand empowered its citizens, fostering social responsibility and addressing global shifts and challenges for stability, sustainability, and personal survival in domestically and in the global arena? I would like to highlight two significant teachings that profoundly influence Thai society. Let's start with the Sufficiency Economy Philosophy, or SEP, conceived by His Majesty King Bhumipol Adulyadej. The SEP advocates development characterized by moderation, reasonableness, self-immunity, and it also emphasized the use of knowledge and morality in planning, decision-making, and action. The SEP aligns with Buddhism, which teaches freedom from suffering by extinguishing greed, anger, and delusion. Buddhism emphasizes understanding cause and effect through mindfulness and wisdom, and underscores the importance of morality, ethics, and virtues in achieving desires correctly. It charts the middle path that leads to happiness in this lifetime and beyond, promoting balanced ethics, mindfulness, and compassion for personal well-being and the greater good of society. Thailand has integrated the SEP into its national strategy, and it also has been incorporated into the national curriculum, empowering our youth through over 23,000 sufficiency-based schools to cultivate a harmonious world. Embracing this mindset encourages students to engage in the moderate material consumption while promoting generosity and thoughtfulness. So, sufficiency economy serves as Thailand's foundational stability. It is clear that Kim Dae-jung, a champion of democracy, peace, human rights, and reconciliation, embraced the knowledge, morality, ethics, and virtues in his governance. His principles align with the SEP and Buddhism. He didn't rely solely on comprehensive knowledge to administer the country, such as the knowledge about politics, economy, and international relations, but also employed morality, virtues, and ethics, such as patience, perseverance, forgiveness, reconciliation, nonviolence, cooperation, freedom, and equality. Ethnical governance and leadership principles underpin his approach, promoting peace, unity, and citizens' well-being. In this slide, I visualize the core principles of sufficiency economy, Buddhism, and Kim Dae-jung's teaching, creating the integrative approach to world peace. It unites the moderation, reasonableness, and self-immunity. In the knowledge box, I highlight the importance of comprehensive knowledge, wisdom, prudence, and careful consideration for better decision-making. In the morality, ethics, and virtues box, I draw wisdom from Buddhism, King Bhumipon's sufficiency economy philosophy, and Kim Dae-jung's principles, encompassing values, virtues that promote reconciliation, forgiveness, and ethical leadership. By integrating this integrative approach, our aim is to address global challenges and strive for a more harmonious and prosperous world. Now, I'd like to stress the significant responsibility placed on the shoulders of our youth in shaping a better world through the integrative approach of the sufficiency economy philosophy, Buddhism, and Kim Dae-jung's principles. They are tasked with promoting moderation, reasonableness, and self-immunity. Simultaneously, they must champion moral values, forgiveness, reconciliation, human rights, and environmental stewardship. By engaging globally, leading with compassion, advocating for peace, and using technology responsibly, our youth can architect a brighter, more equitable, and sustainable world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nirin, on elaborating on a very creative model, drawing from the wisdoms from different cultures. So thank you. And next up, let's meet with Miss Lydia Winyi Kembabazi, a passionate human rights activist born in Uganda. Currently, she's the legal advocacy officer at the Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa in Gambia. In this role, she collaborates with governments and think tanks to lead legal reforms across Africa, aiming to bring about significant changes to unjust systems. Throughout her legal career, she has been a tireless advocate for victims of sexual violence, torture, refugees, prisoners, and all those who have suffered injustices and violations of their human rights. Her remarkable work has earned her recognition from prestigious programs worldwide, including her recent selection as a 2022 Fellow of the Archbishop Desmond Tutu Leadership Program. So to her, peace embodies the spirit of Ubuntu. So peace is Ubuntu, and Ubuntu means I am because we are. I am because we are. She believes that peace can't exist in isolation, but peace thrives when we come together in unity. So let's give a warm welcome to Miss Lydia Winyi Kembabazi.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank the organizers and Dr. Peik for the invitation to be part of this honorable forum for Kim Dae-jung. I put this picture specifically because if you are already not with us in this world, but years later we can still celebrate your impactful leadership, then you are indeed very impactful. Kim Dae-jung and Nelson Mandela were both Nobel Peace Prize winners who worked against adversity, overcame with forgiveness, unity, and sought reconciliation and peace. I love that picture, and I thought it would be an interesting background for my discussion today. So, recognizing young people as a positive force in building and sustaining peace has gained momentum, and the adoption of the United Nations Security Council resolutions in various years on youth, peace, and security, and plus the agenda for the African Union 2030 has developed various youth policies and programs to leverage the power of the young people, meaning the young people cannot be left out in all our peace-building processes in seeking global peace and responsibility for their future. My introduction is just going to recognize the African experience with peace building and how it has hinged historically on post-colonial hierarchies, but also the various leadership challenges that we face from pre-colonial to current situations. And despite challenges that we have, what the youth can play in ensuring sustainable holistic peace in Africa, but across the globe. The emphasis for me today is not on negative peace, that is the absence of violence, but looking at positive peace, which entails fostering reconciliation, coexistence, all grounded in human rights, social, economic, and political justice. Therefore, when I'm having my discussion, I'll be addressing the processes aimed at enhancing our society's capacities to promote peace using the youth. In Africa, there were pre-colonial indigenous traditions for peace building that taught us a lot about healing and reconciliation. And these today can be used to create a basis for reestablishing social solidarity, even combined today with contemporary forward-thinking norms and standards. We would safeguard peace and human rights. However, following colonization for most African countries, there was a dismantling of foundations through which Africans could self-define and appropriated by indigenous governance and dispute resolution structures aligned with interests of the colonialists, but also with Eurocentric values. This, of course, caused conflicts with the colonizers and the colonized. But however, even in the post-colonial and current Africa, the impacts of colonization, neocolonialism significantly influenced the dynamics of peace building. As you can see of recent, the West African Francophone countries are having coups with a great Francophone sentiment, anti-Francophone sentiments. The persistence of violence, however, conflicts, poverty, corruption, bad leadership, self-serving governance remain a significant impediment to socio-political advancement as well as economic growth, all which frustrate peace building. So what can the youth play as a role in the sustainable peace processes in their own communities? I have listed various activities through which the youth can be engaged. However, I'm going to specify global citizenship, political participation, and emulating role models as very key, especially that we are trying to look at global peace and the global scene. I believe there's no one-size-fits-all narrative for the daily encounters and lived experiences of African youth or the youth across the globe anyway, for that matter, because their involvement and role is partly driven and shaped by various political, socio-economic, and governance challenges they experience in their own contexts. However, there are constructive avenues that can be realized to examine peace for a good future and a better future for the youth. On global citizenship, we believe and we can see that it has grown exponentially over the years. Global citizenship has pushed the role of the youth towards building cohesion and peaceful coexistence between groups that would have found themselves in conflict, and the youth can truly contribute to pluralistic and tolerant society that is complementary to peace building and human rights. Young people also need to be involved in political participation and not be overlooked when it comes to engagement in politics and governance. To truly safeguard and promote human rights of the youth, their participation in political processes of their nation is essential. They must have a say in a future they will inevitably inherit. On emulating role models, there are various youth activists who have worked on global issues, whether it be global warming. The lady with the long hair is an environmental activist on the extreme corner who has worked very tirelessly on environmental law and environmental impact and climate change. Malala, I'm glad I have a quotation, the girl who took a bullet for education. She sought peace through education of young women. And then Anataban is a group of young artists in South Sudan who believe that artists can forge a way for good governance and also cause accountability for peace and avoiding conflict in their regions. The youth, in emulating their role models, of course, will be indispensable in peace processes to resolve many of the challenges our world faces today. Building peace for global responsibility, therefore, requires a foundation that is strong and practical, looking at the two leaders who have been very peaceful, who have used various values, including peace, despite all the adversity they had to go through, negotiation, persistency, unity, forgiveness, and democratic leadership to ensure that peace prevails in their own countries, but across the globe. However, when we are encouraging the youth to actively engage in political peace initiatives, it's crucial to recognize that they have shared obstacles, even as they try to make a difference. Though these are not isolated, they are interconnected and have a cumulative impact in different situations and need to be tackled differently and collectively. As I conclude, I must take note that we must avoid exclusionary practices that exclude the youth from all we do. I believe there will be no peace with exclusion. I was invited and I joked that I'm no longer a youth, but I wouldn't mind speaking to the youth. Why? That means I'm involving the youth, even in my attempt to discuss any issues that might impact them. And I end with a philosophy that was introduced by JD, that I am because we are, the philosophy of Ubuntu, which embraces the idea that humans cannot exist in isolation. It reinforces potential that we work together collectively to achieve goals without exclusion of groups or individuals, and in this case, the youth. The youth, the philosophy of Ubuntu seeks the good of all. It creates accountability and can counteract the effects of self-serving leadership, which we have seen as a problem on the African continent as well as across the globe. And it has potential to transform the continent and establish sustainable peace structures, not only in Africa, but across the globe. I thank you. Kasamira.
Thank you so much, Kemba, for sharing your wisdom on the ideas of how to involve the youth to be more active force in the society through the philosophy of Ubuntu. So the next up is Miss Marta Bochanikova. Miss Marta Bochanikova is a Russian national who is currently pursuing her Ph.D. at National Research Tomsk State University. Her research focuses on the influence of President Kim Dae-jung and Roh Moo-hyun's leadership on U.S.-South Korea relations. She's been actively engaged in various Korea-related conferences and has earned prestigious scholarships, including Erasmus Plus Fellowship at Goldsmiths University of London in 2019, the Korea Foundation Fellowship for Field Research at the Sejong Institute in 2021, and the U.S. Fulbright Program at the George Washington University in 2021 to 2022. Besides her academic pursuits, Ms. Bochanikova is passionate about building the bridge between Russian and South Korean companies, particularly in the realm of trade and economic cooperation. She's had hands-on experience working in the Ministry of Industry and Trade of Russia and currently lends her expertise to KOTRA's Moscow office, where she helps South Korean companies navigate the Russian market and tackle intellectual property issues. So for her, peace is possible when the youth is encouraged to be engaged in meaningful political and social activities and thus well prepared for the future to be game changers. So let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Marta Bochanikova.
안녕하십니까? 발표를
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before getting started, I'm very honored to be part of this Kim Dae-jung Peace Forum and share my wisdom and ideas with all of you. So I would like to say thank you to the organizing committee and all the related community.
The process of globalization has become so complex and intertwined that it's not about one person to comprehend it. And this requires collective interaction. However, in such interaction, the role and voice of the youth is more important than ever. Often young people are invited to various fora and conferences to listen, but not to be heard, or what is more, to act. This does not lead to any societal transformation. Young people must not only be heard, but also must learn to influence people who make political decisions and learn to participate in complex international political and economic structures. If we look at the example of South Korean President Kim Dae-jung, he approached real policy based on the values of idealism and pragmatism, and reasoned that one must have a critical consciousness and a commercial sense of reality. And more than that, he emphasized an important role of the youth in the new era. Taking into account increasingly complex global challenges and problems such as climate change, pandemics, terrorism, to name a few, it has become more difficult to achieve meaningful results within an individual forum. In this regard, it's important to build intergenerational ties and involve the youth into the UN agenda. As the most connected generation in the history of humankind, today's youth has unique potential to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, establish dialogue and organize partnerships among countries and different segments of public life. To this end, in my opinion, the creation of the Youth UN as an international organization would help connect the younger generation to the discussion and resolution of global issues. First, the way Model United Nations, MOON, already exist and take place regularly all over the world, establishing the Youth UN as a permanently acting body with all its relevant agencies and councils would promote proactive role of the youth in addressing acute problems of nowadays. Second, a thinking out-of-the-box approach, usually employed by the youth, would help search for possible solutions and creative ways for tackling today's challenging issues. Third, the Youth UN, created in the manner of the incumbent UN, can become a platform for deepening mutual understanding among young people from countries around the world and developing solidarity for practical participation in resolving pressing problems of modern life. A case in point and almost a 10-year success story of the Korea-Russia Youth Dialogue can serve as a proven example of such an effective international collaboration among young people. The Youth Dialogues is a part of a broader Korea-Russia dialogue established by the two countries in 2010. For its more than 10-year history, young people from Russia and South Korea have addressed various topical issues, including those related to the UN SDGs agenda, and the ways how the youth can play a meaningful role in achieving the goals by 2030. The Korea-Russia Youth Dialogue has proved that the youth format within the framework of an overall international communication can become an effective means for contributing to solving complex and acute international problems. Likewise, nowadays acknowledging the utmost role of the youth in developing a highly digital, innovative and inclusive society, as well as in bridging the distance between the countries around the world, Russia not only recognizes the ever-increasing role of the youth in achieving those goals, but actively promotes the inclusion of the youth into its internal and external agendas. For example, since 2008, the Federal Agency for Youth Affairs, Rosmolodezh, has been operating in Russia as a coordinator in the field of youth policy, creating an environment with equal conditions for self-realization of the youth. The agency assists young people to discover their own potential and find application for their talents, develop youth entrepreneurships, and so on. Among other youth projects that foster international collaboration among young people, Russia accelerates its cooperation with African countries. One of the foundations of the state's innovative development is digitalization of key sectors of economy, industry, and social sphere. And Russia is one of the recognized leaders in the field of protecting digital sovereignty and is ready to share its knowledge and experience to increase the competitiveness and strengthen the security of its strategic partners. And the youth in this process is the main driver and beneficiary of the entire process. To sum up, speaking of the youth in the context of both current global challenges and future development of our society, it's vital to recognize the following facts. First, the youth is the driving force behind political changes. The young generation is capable of bringing fresh ideas and innovations to politics and economics. To this end, actions aimed at involving young people into the existing foreign relations formats, creating a permanent youth UN organization, needs to be implicated as soon as possible. Second, young entrepreneurs play an important role in the economy. Young people are actively getting involved into IT sector and digital economy, which stimulates economic growth and contributes to the development of the country. Last but not least, the youth plays an important role in modern society, especially in the context of cultural change, dissemination and preservation of cultural heritage. A world-famous example of South Korean BTS band is a brilliant example of how young people contribute to international youth collaboration and mutual understanding while promoting the culture and values of their own countries. For its part, Russia has been supporting its young generation for more than 20 years now, since the modern history of the country started in 1991. For this time, the young generation got actively involved in diverse local and international projects and volunteer movement, especially within such large-scale events as Sochi 2014 Olympics and Paralympics, 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia, 2019 Winter World Universiade in Krasnoyarsk, to name a few. The constantly changing international agenda compels us to act in concord and search for new solutions. Therefore, recognizing these changes and challenges, Russia is open to new formats and challenges and channels of cooperation, especially among young people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marta, for sharing your wisdom about how to empower the youth to be better prepared as game changers. And I'm sure many of it kind of derive from your own experience as well, right? So next is going to be Miss Michele Borcherding. Miss Michele Borcherding is an enthusiastic academic hailing from Germany with expertise in criminal law and Korean studies. After successfully earning her legal degree at the Free University of Berlin, she is currently pursuing another degree in Korean studies at the same institution. As a budding legal professional, Michele has made multiple contributions to the prestigious law journal Berliner Anwaltsblatt and devoted her time to pro bono cases. Beyond her legal endeavors, her deep passion for Korea has led her to engage in various political initiatives, including her participation in the German-Korean Junior Forum in 2022. Currently, Ms. Borcherding is furthering her studies as a DAAD scholarship recipient at Seongkyungwan University in Seoul. For her, peace is the foundation of our future. So please join me in extending a warm welcome to Ms. Michele Borcherding.
Good afternoon, or as we would say in my home country, guten Abend. First, I also want to express my gratitude as it's an honor to be here and be part of this event, especially since Kim Dae-jung had a close relationship with Germany, Berlin, and my hometown university, Freie Universität Berlin. He often emphasized a similar fate, Korea and Germany as divided countries. His ideas for overcoming the Korean division were based on developments in Germany. He first presented his three-stage plan and the conceptual basis for the later Sunshine Policy abroad in Berlin in a small discussion round at the Berlin Science Center, attended by members of the Free University. In March 2000, he chose the Free University as a location for his Berlin Declaration, transmitted directly to Korea. It was an important step on the way to the first Inter-Korean Summit in July 2000, and in the same year, Kim Dae-jung received the Nobel Peace Prize, and the Free University of Berlin also awarded him with its Medal of Honor. In his speech, Lessons from German Reunification and Questions of the Korean Peninsula, he pointed out the close and often perceived as special community of fate between Korea and Germany and emphasized the important role of German politicians such as Willy Brandt or Richard von Weizsäcker, who stood by him during his difficult time as an opposition politician with, and I quote, advice and action as if it were their own concern. This year marks the 140th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between Korea and Germany. For those 140 years, the two nations have been treading turbulent times and gone through many changes. Germany was divided at the end of World War II. However, it achieved the reunification in 1990 by peaceful means, bringing Europe together and positioning itself as a world-class leader country. Korea, after 35 years under the Japanese colonial rule, was divided at the end of World War II. The Korean War, a brutal civil war, lasted for over 3 years, and Korea to this day still remains divided. Just a few days ago, Germany and Korea both celebrated a national holiday. In Germany, the 3rd of October celebrates the reunification of West and East Germany in 1990. After years of division, Germany was reunited. On October 3rd, South Korea and North Korea both celebrate the founding of the First Korean Kingdom, and thus also the founding of the Korean people. Germany's history with peace is deeply intertwined with its 20th century experiences, including its role in 2 world wars, the division and reunification of the country, and its commitment to European integration and diplomacy. Today, Germany is seen as a key player in promoting peace, stability, and cooperation both within Europe and globally. Peace is a fundamental human right, permitting all individuals within a society to coexist in harmony. It entails the capacity to address disputes through compassion and nonviolent means. In the field of Korean studies, peace is a fundamental theme as it is intricately linked to the history, politics, culture, and future of the Korean Peninsula. The pursuit of peace on the Korean Peninsula, however, is not only a political and strategic goal, but also driven by the desire to overcome the historical division and conflict that have caused immense suffering and pain, contributing to the collective sense of Han among the Korean people. It has been 3 decades since the first North Korean nuclear crisis. So far, mostly the US has been responsible for engaging North Korea in denuclearization talks. The talks were intermittent, not continuous, and produced several agreements, but none of them have been implemented so far. The crux of peace, freedom, and security is that we often only realize their value when they appear to be under threat. And as with anything we recognize as fragile, it is worth protecting them especially. According to the study Youth in Germany, the young generation is facing a concentration of crises like none before since 1945. Climate crisis, war, a pandemic. The young generation has every reason to be pessimistic. We woke up in a different world today was the statement of the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock on the 24th of February 2022. And it's true, because for many young people, the war in Ukraine sparked by the Russian invasion is the first war in Europe that they are consciously experiencing. And yet, this war marks the final end of an era characterized by almost naive optimism for the young generation. I am 25 years old, and my generation in Germany grew up with the belief that we are born into an era devoid of major wars. What were fading memories for our parents were merely chapters in a history book for us. Despite the persistent state of unresolved conflict on the Korean Peninsula, being in the state of a never-ending war, for the younger generation in South Korea, the Korean War also seems to be just ancient history. Despite the ongoing conflict, many seem to have grown apathetic toward the war's impact on the peninsula. It's essential to recognize that perceptions on peace can vary wildly among individuals within a society. While some may feel that their community or country is generally peaceful, others may experience violence, discrimination, or just injustice. Promoting peace often involves addressing the underlying structural and systematic factors that contribute to conflict and striving to create a more equitable and just society for all its members. Contrary to the naive optimism concerning war, it's noticeable that the younger generation in Europe takes extreme measures to advocate for a better, peaceful future. Why? Because we know we cannot afford pessimism. The young generation has come to terms with every single crisis and still manages to look ahead realistically. However, this also means knowing that the voices are heard much less socially, and the opportunities for youth to participate are still insufficient. Little is more frustrating than having an opinion and not being able to represent it. Overall, we are dealing with a young generation today that is in permanent crisis mode, but in which the vast majority is surprisingly resilient. Activist groups like Fridays for Future, Last Generation, or Generation Greta are a testament for that. The role of youth engagement in promoting peace, particularly in the context of the Korean Peninsula, holds significant importance. Youth engagement in peace building involves harnessing the energy, creativity, and passion of young people to contribute to conflict resolution, the advancement of peace, and shaping the future. In recent times, some critical voices have argued that the specter of a new Cold War is becoming increasingly prominent on the Korean Peninsula, where remnants of the old Cold War continue to have an impact. This transition is characterized by a shift from being a focal point in the US-Soviet confrontation to becoming a focal point in the US-China confrontation. As Foreign Minister Baerbock pledged ongoing support to South Korea, I propose that the world's major economies, including Germany and South Korea, gather wisdom and work together to establish a desirable world order. South Korea and Germany have developed one of the most successful cooperative relations. I expect that the two countries will further develop the bilateral relations, expanding cooperation, especially in economic security and advanced technology sectors, including AI. I would like for both countries to take a stronger leadership role globally, and at the same time, I hope that the two countries can closely collaborate on addressing global issues such as the uncertainty in the world economy, supply chain crisis, climate change, by also acknowledging the younger generation their potential to be a driving force for positive change. It is essential for society to provide them with opportunities, education, and support to realize their potential as agents of positive change. Because only then will the succeeding generations in Europe and worldwide also hopefully have the privilege of growing up with a naive worldview. Because in the end, it's our future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michele, for still giving us the reason to have hope for the youth despite all the pessimism that's going around. The next up is Ms. Eun-young Cho. Ms. Eun-young Cho is a dedicated South Korean academic currently pursuing her Ph.D. at Seoul National University. Her research interests lie in the realms of industrial policies and international politics. She's earned recognition by being awarded a global Ph.D. fellowship from the Korea Research Foundation. As a Korea Foundation resident fellow, Ms. Cho had the opportunity to work at the Pacific Forum CSIS in the United States. In addition to her doctoral studies, she also serves as a researcher at the Kim Academy. For her, peace in South Korea is realized when, first, geopolitical threats are removed, second, nuclear threats are removed, and third, ordinary citizens' happiness becomes sustainable. So let's extend a warm welcome to Ms. Eun-young Cho.
안녕하십니까?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My laptop is turned off due to the power outage, so I may not be consistent, but I would like to do my best. Our freedom is a liberation from the North Korean nuclear threat. It is not just a simple absence of a nuclear threat, but also if the U.S.-China relation insecurity should not be present. That is the peace for Korea. Next slide. Is Korea really at peace? So when I receive this question, I would be surprised. Is that really a question? Please look at this triangle. Korea basically is dependent on the United States and asymmetrically, and the economy is dependent on China. So if U.S. and China relation goes sour, and Korea will be sandwiched in terms of political and economic relations. So Korea will be suffered a lot. During the that crisis, Korea chose the alliance over the economic interest. Because of that, Korea was retaliated by China in terms of economy. This is what I call dual asymmetry of trade and security. So Korea is always in the tension between the relation of China and the U.S. So if we can liberate from that relations, then Korea can really enjoy the freedom in the true form. The Yoon administration has been very radical in international relations. As I look at the phenomenon, the U.S.-Korea relations became improved. That is very positive. However, I believe the government role is to console the people's mind. However, they are not interested in reading the people's sorrow, but the government pursued irrevocable relations in the international relations in terms of Japan-Korea relations. The government was not able to convince its people, so its backlash is felt everywhere in Korea. During the Kim Dae-jung administration, President Clinton said, the President Kim Dae-jung, you sit in the you drive the car, and I will be sitting the next. So he declared that U.S. will follow the Korea's lead, and I believe there is a deep trust in the Korea-U.S. relations. In that circumstance, the diplomacy and politics worked very well. However, now we have to think about who is sitting in the driver's seat in the car. And the tension with China, we have to think about whether Korea is really blindly following the U.S. lead. That is the question that I have to raise as an academic. According to the Pew Research survey, and the threats as a threat, the U.S. is forming an antagonistic sentiment among Korean people, and In these circumstances, what I want to ask is, in order to be in the lasting peace, rather than pursuing the good relations with Japan from top down, I hope the government should listen to its people and convince people for its direction. So if I'm asked that the Korea is at peace, if you look at the internal politics, you couldn't say easy yes. Recently, the opposition leader went on fasting for 19 days, even though he was a diabetic patient. On the fasting, the ruling party leaders say that a criminal cannot avoid the prosecutor's interrogation, even though he is on the fasting. The opposition leader is elected by the party members, but he is ignored by the ruling party members. So in the democracy structure, the opposition leader should be respected as a decent partner in politics, but that spirit is almost disappeared in Korea at the moment. Now, if you look at how well the ruling party is doing, but the ruling party popularity supporting rate is very low. In this regard, we cannot say the ruling party is doing good compared to the opposition party. So in some sense, both ruling and opposition parties have to reflect on themselves. Rather than they are engaged in the political struggle, I hope the government or the legislators just took more care of people's life. Now the opposition and ruling party are exchanging the rhetorics in fight. So that led to the divide in Korean's young generation. Have you heard of the 이대남 or 이대녀, which means young people in their 20s? That 이대녀 is a representative word to signify the gender conflict. So the Korean young people are deeply divided, and that was politically exploited by the political circuit to win vote in the elections. I am the graduate school student, so my capacity is very limited. However, my idea for better situation is that we have to return to the Kim Dae-jung spirit. In international security, we need to be sitting in the driver's seat. We need to take the initiative. The Korean people should secure its own position in terms of its own security policies. So we need to drive our own car. And internal politics, we have to revisit President Kim's idea to respect the opponents and have a dialogue with different people. Otherwise, we may not make a breakthrough to this dead end or stalemate. So rather than following the social division from the political sector, they need to create an environment to grow harmony among the people. Last thing I want to emphasize is that now we don't see the spirit of Kim Dae-jung among the young people and the people. Now, the one concern is that the young people do not really feel the necessity for the unification. I believe that is very worrisome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eun-young, for basically summarizing all the conflicts in Korea and showing us how we can overcome this through the ideas of Kim Dae-jung. And thanks for just candidly sharing your opinion on sensitive topics as well. So the last but not least is joining from Zoom is Miss Hima Roopa Kanaparthi, a dedicated academic with a strong background in Korean language and literature. Her educational journey led her to JNU and the University of Delhi, where she cultivated a keen interest in Korean, English, Hindi translation, and comparative linguistic analysis. Ms. Kanaparthi's passion for exploring society, politics, and economic history has driven her to pursue a Ph.D. in development studies at Jamia Millia Islamia. Her research draws inspiration from the new community movement in South Korea, namely the Saemaul Undong. At present, she serves as a guest lecturer at the University of Delhi, teaching Korean language while actively pursuing her aspirations in writing. For her, peace is achieving unity in diversity. So let's extend a warm welcome to Ms. Hima Roopa Kanaparthi.
Good afternoon to all the respected teachers and paper presenters. I am Dr. K.H. Roopa from University of Delhi, India. First of all, I would like to convey my heartiest greetings to all, as I am delighted to present my paper in front of this gathering on such a momentous occasion like today. For me, global peace is the absence of violence, and it should be used as the social goal in a society without any forms of discrimination. When one speaks about the theme, global responsibility and global peace, I am reminded of Abdul Baha, Baha'i faith's leading exponent, who is the champion of social justice and an ambassador for international peace. He has once said, "The supreme need of humanity is cooperation and reciprocity. The stronger the ties of fellowship and solidarity amongst men, the greater will be the power of constructiveness and accomplishment in all the planes of human activity." I think this saying provides an impetus which is required to drive the nations ahead in this constantly transforming world. Also, this saying represents the voice of today, youth's voice of today. I mean to say, ideas and thoughts of youth shape the destiny of nations on earth. Today, in today's world, strength of youth lies in the unity, transcending individual differences and achieving peace. In modern times, the nonviolent methods of action based on the philosophy of nonviolence have been powerful tool for social protest and socio-political revolutionary changes. For example, Mahatma Gandhi has led a decades-long non-violent struggle against British rule in India, which has eventually helped India attain its independence in the year 1947. Generally speaking about South Korea, President Kim Dae-jung was a courageous champion of democracy and human rights. He risked his life to build and lead a political movement which has played a crucial role in establishing a dynamic democratic system in the Republic of Korea. President Kim Dae-jung and Mahatma Gandhi, they have inspired the youth to fight against all odds in a society through non-violent methods. We know that young people are one of the society's significant agents of advancement and transformation who can contribute to global investments. Today's youth is confronted with various challenges such as geopolitical conflicts, pollution, environmental degradation, food insecurity, and demographic explosion at global level. These are the intertwined problems that need collaborative work and proper management by young people on an urgent basis. Today, in the 21st century, non-violence is regarded as the means to settle international disputes to secure international peace. Peace and environmental security are therefore intimately related, and neither can be achieved without the other. To avoid environmental insecurity, the causes of environmental change they need to be addressed, since it is these that expose groups to changes in the distribution, abundance, and quality of resources on which they depend. Besides this, understanding other cultures and people around the world is one of the best ways to expand young people's horizons and gain empathy that can make them a more compassionate individual and help them to contribute to society in a more meaningful way in this age of fourth industrial revolution. With every passing moment, these young people's emerging talents reshape the potential of world's future by changing and transforming their aspirations into actuality. Since every learned young mind is a step towards building a more inclusive and equitable world. So here I would like to conclude with the saying of Jose Rizal, national hero of Philippines, who has once said, "The youth is the future of hope." Once again, I would like to thank everyone for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present this paper on this momentous occasion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roopa, for your good summary that wraps our presentations. And now I'd like to move on to the discussion and Q&A session. And I think we actually did pretty good with the time, so I think we have about 12 minutes remaining. But first, I want to ask from the audience if there is any questions that you have. So does anybody have a specific question they want to ask? If not, we can just begin with our discussion, and then as you listen to discussion, if there is a question that arises, you can always jump in and always raise your hand, and we can answer as best as we can. So as we were listening to many different presentations, one of the thing that I kind of thought of was the idea of global democracy suggested by Kim Dae-jung during his conversation with Professor Anthony Giddens and Professor Jong-dae. So from how I understand his philosophy, this global democracy is not about spreading the Western notion of democracy and exporting them just elsewhere, but it's rather is about contextualization of democracy, focusing on humanitarian ideas that each culture has and cultivating from there so that it's actually contextualized in their own context. So for example, for Kim Dae-jung, the Confucianism, while many may think that it is contrary to the Western notion of democracy, he found the ideas of humanism in there and ideas to build a foundation for democracy. For example, the notion of the heaven and people serving people as heaven, and so on. And there's also rich cultures elsewhere. For example, Kemba touched upon the idea of Ubuntu. So to Kim Dae-jung, I believe that global democracy meant that, it's not just about, just copy and pasting just some notion, but it's actually about really thinking deeply, going into the local context and really digging it, what's in there already. And through this, I think it also kind of connects with Kemba's notion of global citizenship. And I think it connects together. And on this point, I believe Nirin, when she talked about the intersections among King Bhumipol and Buddhism and Kim Dae-jung, I felt like you were kind of on the same page with this. So maybe I want to start by asking you to kind of expand on your idea and then how you think the youth can be following this from these principles.
Okay, thank you for that insightful question. The integrative approach that I present with its core principles of moderation, sustainability, and compassion holds great potential for our youth to make a positive impact on the world. The first is about education and awareness. Education is the key. Youth can begin by learning about the integrative approach and understanding its principle. This knowledge provides a solid foundation for informed action. Young people can then take it a step further by raising awareness among their peers and communities. By sharing what they have learned, they can inspire others to join the journey towards peace and sustainability. And the second issue, I think about youth-led initiative. One of the most powerful ways that youth can apply the integrative approach is through youth-led initiatives. Imagine organizing clean-up drives to restore our natural environment or planting trees to combat climate change. These initiatives not only promote sustainability, but also foster a sense of unity and compassion within the community. And the third issue, I think about the dialogue and conflict resolution. In a world filled with diverse perspectives, youth can play a vital role in fostering dialogue and resolve conflicts. Whether it's resolving disputes in their schools or promoting peaceful solutions to global peace, to global issues, young people can be a catalyst for constructive conversations and conflict resolutions. And I also think that about sustainable practices. Sustainability is the core of the integrative approach. Youth can make a difference by adopting sustainable practices in their daily lives. These include simple actions like reducing waste, conserving energy, and supporting business that prioritize sustainability. These small steps align with the principles of moderation and sustainability. And I also think about advocacy and activism and community engagement and cultural exchange. Also youth network as well.
All right, thanks for the answer, Nirin. And I think from your broad range of the answer that you gave, I think we already touched upon some of those points by many different presenters today. For example, when you talked about empathy, I think that's what Roopa mentioned about. And when you talked about mobilizing the youth and following their initiatives, I think Michele and Marta mentioned about the need to create some youth-led initiatives and formalizing them in order to really prep them for a better future. But I think there was one common point that among all the presentation, every one of you maybe spoke about different topics, but I think there was one common point, and that is that maybe not Nirin, but I think all of you felt that there's lack of representation of youth in your own context. And although you have already touched upon this, is there any of you that want to share why, in your own context, that's the problem and how that can be bettered?
Thank you, JD. I think even as I was discussing the Ubuntu, much as it was in the context of working together, we notice and we know that it was also at one point exclusionary in terms of the young people, the women, and the people who are marginalized in society. So it's pertinent to note that in our context now, it's important to have equal representation of all, because as you can see now, with very divisive politics in our continent, has led to coups that are being actually, interestingly, being led by youth. Most of the people who have taken power by force and violence are actually young people. that goes to show there's an element of exclusionary political participation and practices in the continent. And I think that is something that we must definitely ensure that the youth participate in. Their voices are heard. And I think, for one, Ban Ki-moon, the former UN Secretary General, noted that he places great hopes in the future of the youth, and actually went ahead to create an envoy of the youth on his office, hopefully still existent, in the UN office of the Secretary General. So applying that of Ubuntu in working together, I think in the context of today, we would need to have, combine it with contemporary forward-thinking norms and standards that are good for safeguarding peace, human rights, equal representation, and democracy. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kemba, for explaining in your own context, and thanks for the work that you are doing for the continent of Africa.
Excuse me, sir. I
Yes,
also would like
Roopa.
to elaborate on making youth engage in politics.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Sir, for political systems to be representative, all parts of society must be included. So when young people are disengaged from political processes, a significant portion of the population has little or no voice or influence in decision making that affect group members' lives. So a key consequence is the undermining of political systems' representativeness. So in order to make a difference in the longer term, it is essential that younger people are engaged in formal political processes and have a say in formulating today's and tomorrow's politics. Inclusive political participation is not only a fundamental political and democratic right, but also is crucial to building stable and peaceful societies and developing policies that respond to the specific needs of younger generations. For young people to be adequately represented in political institutions, processes, and decision making, and in particular in elections, they must know their rights and they must be given the necessary knowledge and capacity to participate in a meaningful way at all levels. When there are obstacles to participation in political, formal institutionalized processes, young people can rapidly feel disempowered. Many tend to believe that their voices are not heard or they are not going to be heard. Or they might also feel that they may not be taken seriously, even if they are heard. So the problem becomes circular as politicians may lose interest in responding to the aspirations of young people if they cannot win their votes. So this in turn leads to young people being increasingly excluded from taking part in decision making or in debates about key socio-economic and political issues, despite their sensitivity to the demands for social equity and justice and environmental protection as well as cultural diversity. Here again, I am reminded of the saying by Swami Vivekananda, who was an Indian great social reformer. He has said, take risks in your life. If you win, you can lead. If you lose, you can guide. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Roopa, for your analysis of why the youth can be excluded from the political realm, and maybe your ideas, sharing your ideas on how to fix it as well. And I think Joe had a comment.
저는 짧은 코멘트가 있는데요.
I have a short comment. Okay, I'm given an opportunity, so I will make a brief comment. Whenever youngsters appear in the political scene, they get highlighted because there is expectation that the young people would have reformistic approaches in politics. So there's a high expectations for the young politicians. they come to the political scene by shouting they will open the new world. However, they are easily disappointed because they repeat the conventional practices. So people say that the politicians get old, they should go out of party. But recently I saw that I welcome Park Ji-won's return rather than seeing the young politicians who are addicted to the cryptocurrency. So rather than I say that young politicians are underrepresented, but they should have fresh ideas. They should have reformistic ideas to have a better representation in political scene. Thank you.
Because of all the fire coming out from Eun-young. But anyway, I think Marta also had a comment. And Michele, do you have also a comment?
Yeah, just
Okay,
a brief
yes.
comment to follow up the speakers. So I would like to support the previously underlined opinions that it's crucially important to create and maintain the youth-led international organizations and especially political formats. In my opinion, youth-led organizations need to be encouraged and empowered to participate in translating the UN SDGs 2030 agenda and put it to the national, local, and regional level. So these youth-led organizations play a meaningful role in monitoring and reviewing as well as implementing this agenda into the real politics. So I believe with the appropriate and adequate resources, the young generation really can make a difference and be true game changers in the modern time.
Thanks, Marta, for sharing your opinion. Yeah.
Well, Roopa already said it perfectly. She put it's like I put my words into her mouth. But I don't need to emphasize anymore how young people play a crucial role in shaping the future. I think we covered that enough. But just to give an example, especially because I like the remark that the younger generation isn't taken seriously enough, without the efforts and the pivotal role of younger generation, the German reunification, or especially the fall of the Berlin Wall, wouldn't have happened. Because when Günther Schabowski, he was the ruling socialist unit, he was one of the ruling Socialist Unit Party politicians. When he read the piece of paper that we should permit travel abroad, it was the young generation who, on the same evening, thousands of people, especially the younger generation, flocked to the Berlin border and then crossed the border and overwhelmed the border officials with not only their spirit, but also the amount of people. And wouldn't have that happened, the Berlin Wall wouldn't have fallen, and also German reunification wouldn't have happened. And it was, in a sense, a miracle. So yes, the power of youth is very important, and we should take them seriously, and we should incorporate them more.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. And I think that's a perfect note to end this discussion. And I also wanted to stress that, the empowerment of youth is only possible intergenerationally. So it's when all of us work together to empower the youth, and our future becomes a better one. So I want to thank you all for listening with us and participating with us to make this session very meaningful and thoughtful. So yeah, thank you again, and the meeting is adjourned.